Howdy folks, it's Adriel the Hunting Gear Guy, and this is the Ruger 7744. It's a bolt-action 44 Magnum rifle. Is it a hunting rifle? Is it a plinking rifle? Yes, it's all of those. It's kind of an interesting rifle from Ruger. It's got a rotary magazine. It shoots the same 44 Magnum that your big revolver does, except it shoots it out of a bolt-action rifle. So before we take a closer look at this thing, let's just take a quick peek. I can see that my chamber is empty, and I can see that my magazine is empty as well. So why don't we take a closer look at this thing? All right, just starting at the back of this rifle, we have a grippy rubber butt pad, but there's no padding to this thing. This is just a solid chunk of rubber, so not much recoil absorption, but again, you don't really need it. 44 Magnum does not have a lot of recoil. We have these metal sling studs. This is an add-on after the fact, just to add to some cheek height on it. We have a standard polymer stock. We've got a little bit of grooves here just to give you a little bit of grip on the palm there. Now that trigger pull isn't too bad. It's got a little bit of a creep to it and a little bit of weight, a lot of weight to it. It's actually quite a heavy trigger. Now this one might work in if I were to shoot it a whole bunch. So there's that to be said. Now the safety on the right hand side here, this wing is actually pretty cool. I really like the options that go on. I don't like the clickiness that it has. So right now it's in fire. If I move it to the middle there, it's on safe, and I move it to the rear, it's got this notch here. It actually engages with the bolt, and it actually locks it in there, so my bolt won't move now, so it's actually locked to the bolt as well as put it on safe, so I can't pull the trigger. That's a really cool thing if you're gonna trudge around the woods, because this basically locks the gun up so that you can have a round in it. It's ready to rock and roll, but it's also safe, and you can't knock the bolt loose. So on a normal rifle that didn't have the bolt lock, you could potentially be walking around the woods and accidentally knock the bolt up like that. You go to fire the gun, you put it in, and there's nothing there. So I do like the bolt locks that are available on the rifles that have them. I hope you can see this in the video. You can see one of these like half moons at the back here. This is the Ruger scope mounting system. It's got one there and one there as well. So it's got a little bit of options on the back here in terms of your mounting locations, but not a heck of a lot. Primarily, you're going to be using, a scope about this long. You won't be able to use anything that's too compact. Even with this one, we're getting close to the limits on what it can do and how you can mount it back and forth. I don't really like this scope mounting system. I'd rather they just used Weaver. Now the magazine release on, I really don't like the magazine release. Let me just show you here. I'll show you later as well. Come on, get out, get out, get out of there. Get out, there we go. There we got the magazine out. It's this flush button on the bottom here. I don't really like it. It's kind of goofy. What it's doing as I'm pushing it like this is that it's got a little cup, and that cup is going in and out on the back here to lock this pin. Not a big fan. This is a rotary magazine, so it'll fit 4 rounds of 44 Magnum. Let me just grab a couple here. I just wanted to show you, the magazine actually loads really nicely. All you have to do is pop it up on the feed lips there and push it down, and they just feed in and they'll keep going around, and the magazine will hold 4 rounds of 44 Magnum. So pretty cool from that aspect. I just don't like how it mounts and holds onto the gun itself. Now the bolt itself is very neat. Instead of having the lugs up front, which primarily you need lugs up front if you're going to run like a really strong bolt, you'll notice that there are no lugs up front, and instead they're right there. So they're right there on the bolt there, and they lock in right here. So they're actually locking in at the receiver quite far back, and that's okay for something like 44 Magnum. And what it does is it allows, because it's locking back here and not up here, we've got more room up here. So the barrel, the face is of the chamber is right right there. So instead of being a little bit further up, it's a little bit further back. So they actually saved about an inch doing that, or an inch or a little bit more maybe, because they chose to go with this style bolt. So they've got a little bit more barrel length in a shorter package, and the bolt itself is also very compact. So they've got a very compact setup running with this rifle, and that's, I think, why they chose to go with this design style. Now the bolt release is on the left-hand side of the receiver, just over here. So if I take the bolt and push it back, there's actually a little tab right there. It's kind of hard to see and kind of hard for me to push well. You guys can see on camera, but if you push that down, it'll actually let your bolt loose. So kind of interesting. It's not super apparent, but it, I mean, doesn't really need to be either, right? I'm thankful that it's out of the way and it's not easy to grab. But you might have to check your manual or you know, a video or something like that to find where it is there, unless you watch this video. Moving a little bit further forward, we've got this folding rear sight. I can't fold it up because you can see it's hitting the scope there, but it's kind of a neat rear sight because it's mounted quite far forward here. It gives you a very short sight radius for a bolt-action rifle, and therefore it's very quick to use. It wouldn't give you like the top-notch accuracy that having a sight near the rear would give, but it's pretty good right here, and it's fast. And I think that's what we're going with this carbine style rifle. Now up towards the front we have this gold colored, I don't know if it's gold or brass, but it's got this very easy to pick up front sight post. And there's the muzzle, and you can kind of get an idea as to like the huge bullets that are coming out of this thing, and the barrel's actually quite thin, so it's a pretty light setup, and it spits out some really big bullets. They are very easy to find your bullet holes in the paper. Now, just in terms of usability, there are a couple of things I don't like. There's a couple. Okay, I'll talk about the things I do like. The safety, I like for the reason that the location's fine, just on the right-hand side of the receiver here. I can actuate it while it's up on my face. The things I don't like, it's super clicky, and I can't stop it from making noise. So if this is your close-in hunting rifle, you know, that's gonna spook the deer or the game or whatever you're trying to shoot at. Now, you can kind of try to quietly let it down but because it's all steel, it's, you know, grinding against some steel surfaces here, and it's very hard to actuate without making some noise. So I think that works against it in terms of like a close-in hog or deer gun. The other things I don't like about it is I don't like how the magazine fits in. If you have a 10-22, you know, it's just a little bit fiddly, like getting them in there. And this thing is really fiddly getting in there. You can't just ram it in there. It's got to be finessed a little bit. And because it's got this smooth bottom magazine release, it's very difficult to actually push it and get that mag out. You can see I push it and it just won't fall out. I kind of have to wiggle it a bit. And it can be kind of a pain in the butt, so I don't know, just keep that in mind. I mean, you have to kind of finagle it to get it in there. The bolt throw on it is a little bit long, so if you see there, it's actually quite close to the scope, even though the scope is not particularly like low on the action. I would... You know, if they could have made this with like a 60-degree throw, it would have been really nice, because then the bolt would have allowed the scope to go a little bit lower. I think that this stock that they have on here is made to shoot with the iron sights. So if you iron sight guys out there, or if you're planning on shooting this with iron sights, it's perfect. The height is great for an iron sight. I feel like with a good cheek weld, I can look down the iron sights. Now, I'm not looking down the scope. Because I think, again, this stock is made to shoot this thing with iron sights. So with those rings, I'm almost getting like a little bit of a higher cheek weld, and I can't pop it like right down my cheek. I'm actually using the midway down on my chin there. So it's not really ideal if you want to be running a scope on this guy, but it is doable totally. If you are going to run with scope, I would definitely recommend getting a cheek pad and just building it up so that your face is perfectly rested, and you can see down that scope when your face is rested on the stock. Now the actual bolt throw, I mentioned before that it's a little bit tall, but it is so short. There is like practically no action to this thing because it uses the lugs at the rear. The barrel basically comes right up to the front of the action here, so it's right there, and there's no lugs necessary there. That's just like, that's all chamber, right? So they've actually gotten away with a really compact action and a really compact overall rifle here. So this thing's super compact, very lightweight, and that's something, you know, it's something to be said for a nice light bolt action rifle. Again, very fast to run the bolt. Now, the problem is 44 Magnum is not a fantastic loading cartridge for a bolt action. They're big and bulky, and they're canister shaped, and they're not bottleneck. So I did have a couple of times where I was trying to load this thing, and the 44 Magnum, as they were coming up, it was like, didn't want to go any further in there. So take that into consideration. You know, it doesn't really like feeding those because they are such a stout cartridge feeding in a bolt action like this. Now, the other thing I ran into, and I'll show you this on video, is that as I was extracting the last round, it would always get stuck on the feed lips of the magazine and would not correctly extract. This is not a huge issue because you're gonna have to reload anyways. You're gonna have to like pull the mag out or put a new shell in, but if you needed to like hand bomb in that last shell, it might be a game stopper for you. Now, one of the other kind of odd things about this rifle, because it uses these half moon Ruger scope mounts, you do have to get the matching Ruger scope mounts. You can't just get like a Weaver or a base or anything like that. So that's like a small thing to take into consideration. Not really needed if you're going to use the rear, the iron sights on this thing. So that really depends on what you're going to use it for. Overall, would I recommend the Ruger 7744? Well, only in some instances. It's not like a fantastic medium to long range hunting rifle, just because those 44 Magnums they rainbow out there pretty quickly. For a short range, it's fine, but so is everything else. I mean, all the hunting rifles out there are fine at short range. I think what it does shine for, because it's so light and because the recoil isn't all that bad, this is actually be a pretty nifty youth rifle, or you know, just someone who's recoil sensitive and wants to go hunting with a really lightweight rifle. This actually isn't that bad of a choice. 44 Magnum will definitely do the trick up to 100 yards on a deer or a boar or any of that kind of thing. And it's not too loud, and the recoil is not bad, so it's not a bad idea for that kind of stuff. Especially, and here's my use case number 2, if you're really into 44 Magnum, like you've got like a couple of revolvers or one that you love a lot, this might be a decent pairing to it if you want to you know, just go out and plink and shoot some stuff a little bit further away, because this is a little bit more accurate than, you know, a 44 Magnum revolver would be, because it's got a stock and a longer barrel and a sighting system and all that like kind of good stuff. So it might be a good pairing for you guys out there who are real 44 Magnum fanatics. Now, in terms of accuracy with this rifle, I was seeing right around 1 inch to 2 inch. Every once in a while, it would throw a kind of a wild one off paper. Now, I don't know if that's the ammo or if it's the gun or if it's, you know, what's going on. I did notice that the barrel is not really free floated very well. It does touch on there. So if you change pressure on the stock of this thing, especially at the front, you will impact, you know, your point of impact with this thing. It is pillar bedded, so that's kind of nice. That stock has a pillar bed right here, so you're getting nice consistent tension on this rifle. But yeah, like this isn't really designed to be a tack driver anyways. 44 Magnum isn't a particularly super accurate round at long range. If you are looking at a youth hunting rifle that you can use at 100 or 200 yards, you might want to look at like a 243 or a 7mm odd 8. 7mm odd 8? 7mm 08? 7mm 08. There we go. Just need to think about that for a second, because those will take the energy and they'll put it out further, and they have more power to do it in as well. So they're not quite as limited in the range as this guy will be. But it's definitely a cool rifle, and definitely one of the more rare ones that you'll see out there. You don't see a lot of rifles like this, a bolt action rifle in a pistol caliber cartridge. So very interesting rifle. I didn't mean to like rag on this thing. I think that there's a couple of like really cool things, and I think that there are a couple of the design choices. I don't know if I agree. Maybe I just don't understand why those design choices were made, but very interesting rifle anyways. Definitely check out the Ruger 7744. Thanks for watching. All right, one of the issues that I just wanted to show with this rifle, on the last case that you're trying to extract, it can get caught up on the magazine kind of lips that are coming out of it. So as you're pulling back on that last round, you may find that the case just doesn't want to get out of there. So you'll have to remove the magazine to pull it out.